All righty. Live and direct, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Monday Night Live. And I want to first of all start off by thanking the lovely Dr. Natalie Forrest, who, by the way, is in Europe right now. And so for you, Dr. Natalie Forrest, this is actually not an episode of Monday Night Live. It's an episode of early morning live. So I wanted to just thank you for co-hosting this lovely episode and allowing me to co-host your show here as you're joining us live from Germany. So just wanted to give a special thanks to you. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this past week we had such a remarkable thing happen here at the Los Angeles Tribune with the Women's Quantum Leap Forum. As always, the work that we do is about bringing righteousness, justice, bringing empowerment, and just doing things that, generally speaking, make this world a better place. And so I did my heart glad to see Dr. Natalie Forrest here and the lovely folks at the Tribune work with thought leaders from around the world to put that incredible live 2-day event, which was actually a televised event, which we'll be able to, which people can see on Roku. And that brings me to this, Dr. Natalie Forrest. We have had the pleasure and privilege of working with so many thought leaders from around the world. And what truly does my heart glad is when we're able to recognize and be recognized by some of the most remarkable thought leaders. And so I thought that it was apropos for us to actually play a clip from someone that we were able to honor, not this past Quantum Leap, but one the previous, and that's, of course, Lisa Nichols. And I wanted to take a second to talk a little bit about what Lisa Nichols' work means for us. And I wanted to just hear your thoughts on that, Dr. Natalie Forrest, before we play that short clip, and then we'll begin the program officially. Dr. Natalie, please. And what did the Quantum Leap mean for you as well?
The Quantum Leap was amazing because we tried to focus on saying, let's talk real. And right off the bat, that's what happened. And I was just amazed to have Forbes Riley, call in from Costa Rica, and we started with the real stuff right off the bat, and then everybody came together supporting one another. All of the experts were referring to one another. It felt like a community on a mission to really improve the world. And of course, we also have today on this amazing show, Heart-Centered Leadership, we have two of the lovely ladies who participated in the forum as well. I think it really elevated some of the issues that we face as women, as leaders, and as a society to the forefront. So I think that's what came through again and again throughout the forum and in the comments right now.
You're absolutely right. Thank you. So let's watch the short clip that Lisa Nichols created for our audience, and we'll be back in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Hi, Lisa Nichols here. And I wanted to thank the Los Angeles Tribune for the Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm grateful. During my career of over 21 years, all I've ever wanted to do was to help transform, help impact, up-level, elevate the lives of those around me. When I started my career over 20 years ago, I never knew that I'd be here. I was a woman from Los Angeles, wanting to change my life and my son's life. And when I found that education, motivation, inspiration, and action led to transformation, and when I began to have my own transformation, all I wanted to do was to help as many people as possible to have the same experience or their own experience similar. I know that 2020 was a year of uncertainty, unexpected and unwanted change. 2020 was a year of unacceptable, made polarized. 2020 was a year of release, relinquish, reset, recharge. 2020 was a year that we all navigated through, but we made it to 2021. We made it to 2021 still with hope, with dreams, with belief, in spite of global and national upheaval. We've pushed through it and we are here today. I'm honored by this award because it's an award that's acknowledging resiliency as well as commitment. And each and every one of us have that. I'm grateful that I can inspire someone else to keep getting up. I say oftentimes, I didn't avoid being knocked down. I simply was always committed to getting back up. And as I kept getting back up, I continued to have more faith in my ability to get up. And then I was able to strategize on how to avoid so many knockdowns. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank the LA Tribune for seeing in me something that adds value. I want to thank the Quantum Leap Forum for seeing in me something that adds value to the lives of those around me. I am who I am because of the energy that lives and the vibration that flows through Los Angeles. I am and will always be an LA girl, no matter where I live, where I am, or where I serve in the world. So it's an honor to be able to do good work besides good people like you. I cannot wait until I can turn a virtual hug into a physical hug. I'm your sister in prosperity and in possibility. And from my heart to yours, I say thank you. I believe in you and I love you. Be well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I just want to give a special shout out to Lisa Nichols. And we have so much work that we are doing with thought leaders like Lisa Nichols moving forward at the LA Tribune. As I've said before, and as Dr. Natalie Forrest has echoed, this is much more than just about news. We are truly redefining the way that people look at historical news organizations, because we enjoy working with thought leaders that are making a social impact on the planet, because we understand the power of information. Information is power, Dr. Natalie Forrest. That's why I'm so excited to announce that we have some exciting things going on that will be, so keep an eye out for sure. And with that, let's go ahead and bring in this incredible eclectic group of thought leaders. Wow. I see the lovely Carissa, Justine, and of course, a gentleman that likes to go by Uncle Dave. So let's start off with first of all, giving every person here the floor for about a minute or two to talk a little bit about the work that they're doing on the planet and touch a little bit about this distinction of being a heart-centered leader. You know, we've all heard about being a leader. We've all heard about leadership. But what does it mean to you when you hear the term heart-centered leader? And what are you doing in your life? What are you doing in your business to promote being a heart-centered leader? I want to start off with Ms. Carissa Johnson. Carissa, the floor is yours.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Carissa Johnson. I'm a psycho-spiritual business mentor. That's just a fancy way of saying I combine psychology and spirituality in a way to help women, especially entrepreneurs, scale their business and create a rich life through emotional mastery, raising their vibration and creating global impact. Fortunate enough for me, I have had many trials and tribulations that have led me to become a skilled leader. And so for me, I think when it comes to leadership and the difference between heart-centered leadership, I think there's a level of responsibility that you know when you're a heart-centered leader. You know that you have influence, you know that you have impact, and you use it well. And I think, as Lisa Nichols was so eloquently saying, it's talking about raising up everyone. Somebody who is a leader just for leadership's sake and has that title and definition versus somebody who's a leader from the heart is somebody who wants to raise everyone up, somebody who's looking out for others and who wants them to shine more than themselves. And I think that that's why I created Freedom Designers, which is my organization, my company, because I didn't want it to be the Carissa Johnson show. I want to have a company and an organization, a community where people can buy into a bigger mission and we can all come together for just a larger purpose here. So I think when it comes to heart-centered leadership, it's focusing on raising up everyone versus, you know, kind of boosting ourselves and the titles and the prestige that we desire.
Thank you for that, Carissa. We're going to touch base on that very shortly and delve more into what it means to design a life of freedom, as you put it. But let's go now to Justine. Justine, what does it mean to be a heart-centered leader in your world? The floor is yours.
I think it's knowing that every single thing that you do in life is greater than you. Whatever you do in life, if you're doing your best, it's going to have a domino effect on others. It's leading with your heart. It's knowing that whatever you touch, whether it's a piece of work that you do. For instance, I'm in branding, so my job is to actually shine light on others and to show them that they are a $1 million brand, that they are capable of hitting that $1 million milestone, but it starts with you. Everything we do in life has a domino effect on other people. And I think being a heart-centered leader is about being kind. It's about being empathetic, and it's knowing that there's a greater purpose other than, what you're striving for in yourself.
Wow. Very eloquently put. Thank you for that, Justine. Let's go now to Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave, please introduce yourself to this audience. Share a little bit about what you do in the world. I know that there was a special feature on you recently, but for those that may have not read it, talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and what does being a heart-centered leader mean for you? Uncle Dave, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, so of course I go with the Uncle Dave, because you always have that uncle or that close friend who you just can tell everybody to do, who will actually help you. Will actually help you move the bodies and things like that. But go back to the heart center. One of my favorite sayings is, when we ground ourselves, we can become more than what we are, and heal ourselves, because it all starts from within ourselves. And I often go, earth and heart are the same letters, and by using those same letters differently, they're two different words that are so powerful. And there's always an R in your heart. And I really loved, I already took notes a little bit. Earlier today when we started out, it was great. It was, we're talking about a bat. I heard, when you swing a bat, bringing the bat, and bringing a bat for me is not violence. I have a podcast that you had mentioned excellently that it was highlighted this week. Peace and love, everybody can understand that. It's the bring a bat part. And the bring a bat is standing up for ourselves and understanding where our non-negotiables are. And that's what I do. I help. I'm a mentor, because a coach sends in the plays. I don't send in the plays. I help talk about it. We figure it out. We're on the path. And personal attitudes towards happiness is how I call path. And what I do is actually just keep working at it. And that's the really important parts of what we do, is by using those R's in our heart. I think Lisa Michael, during her speech earlier, talked about recharge, reset, release. And even, Carissa had mentioned about raise. And even Justine talks about how things are greater than us, that we're always looking for the greater. And one of the parts about Uncle Dave is also Goons for Good, is the charity work that I do. I support a lot of charities, and the Goons for Good is really, I know a person. If you want to help somebody, such as veterans, I know people in the veteran community, and I often give myself up to help them and help people through the techniques that I know how to do to get through PTSD and other challenges. And that's what I do. And that's where I always bring it back to, if we start with ourselves, the heart of ourselves, it all grows. And we'll talk a little bit more about leadership in a little while.
Thank you so much. I want to ask Dr. Natalie Flores, who of course is the executive producer of this program, and I want her to work on it. I want to hear what you think of when you think of the term heart-centered leader, and then I'm going to have you go ahead and take the mantle for a while and lead the show. But Dr. Natalie Flores, please, the floor is yours.
Well, I think what everybody already said, heart-centered, right? We lead from the heart, and the heart, mind, and soul have to come together. And I love what Carissa said about you want others to succeed more than you. I always think of, and I know I'm dating myself, but I always think of Bette Midler, the wind beneath your wings, because to me, that is what it's all about. And it's non-judgmental. It doesn't matter where anybody comes from, because when we're heart-centered, we see the truth of somebody else. We see the light. And therefore, whatever that talent is in somebody else, we help elevate that and bring that to the forefront. And so in that vein, again, I'm just going to go around, starting with you, Carissa, because you started us off. How do you know who do you support and why do you support a person? Because, you're leading them. You said you want them to succeed more than others. What is that moment where this is the one that I want to right now help out, mentor, bring to the forefront?
That is such a hard question to answer. I'm going to do my best, though. I'm going to try to answer that question, but it's hard to describe because it's an energy thing for me, at least. How I make decisions about who I want to mentor and who I want to work with. It's always an energy thing. There's an application process to work with me because I want to make sure we're a good fit. I don't want to just support you. I know that I can help a lot of people, and a lot of people do want to work with me, but we have to be in the same vibration, and we have to have similar values. Even when I come to leading my team. So when it comes to mentoring people, I think the way that you know is through clearing your own energetic field, and you can really tune into your body. When I meet a person and I can feel my body kind of pull back a little bit, I'm like, we're not in the right vibration here. So it just comes down to years and years and years and continuing on of self-development and understanding the energy of yourself. Like, I'm reading a book right now called Frequency. I think her name is Penny Pierce. It's a really good book. And I love the way that she describes it about it's your home frequency. You need to know your own home frequency so that when other frequencies, other energies and vibrations come in, you can see this isn't mine or this is mine. And you can kind of take responsibility for what's yours and not. So when it comes to mentoring other people, I want to help everyone. And I try as much as possible. I have a podcast. I have a free community. I offer a bunch of free stuff. But when it comes down to really working intimately with somebody, I think that that's an energetic thing. And it comes down to me really tuning into my body and seeing, are we matching here? Are our vibrations similar? And at the very least, even if they're a little bit different, that's okay. I want people to rise and calibrate with me. That's why I think I mentor a lot of people. I want them to come to where I'm at, my energy. But we need to have the same values. So I don't want to work with clients. I don't want to lead a team or people or be in a community with other people who don't have similar values. I mean, mental health, wellness is one of mine. Integrity is one of mine, ethics. So really just understanding yourself. I think Mo and I talked about this in our podcast, which is going live next week. Knowing thyself is ultimately the way, I think, to the most empowered leadership. So I'd say that's the way to really get to know who you want to work with and how you want to support people, is to first start with yourself and really lead yourself first.
That's awesome. And I love what you threw in there, but I want everybody to hear that because we're talking about heart-centered. You said, I'm paraphrasing, you pick because of the energy connection. However, you want to support everybody.
Yeah.
So my assumption, therefore, is, and that also goes to Justine and Uncle Dave, of course, if you think this is not a fit for me, you send them somewhere else where it is a fit. It's not that we're leaving them behind there. We're just saying, we're not a match, but look over there. There's Justine or there's Uncle Dave. Go to them. And so, Justine, you work in branding. I delved into branding, and it's like I might see what somebody needs to do, but sometimes they don't agree. So in branding, how do you decide who to work with, and how do you get that inspiration of, yes, that is what this person's brand can be, because it's heart-centered from you?
I love this question, Dr. Natalie, because to me, I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa, right? So I came to Australia with nothing, and I've been working since I was a little girl to hustle and to grow, and started my business with nothing, my story. So I think for me, the clients that I really get excited about are the ones starting, and they've got that hungry fire and that drive to succeed. Like someone who you can't buy attitude. You can't buy drive. Someone's either got it or they don't. It's the same as creativity, you can't, that's why, people can go get a website done anywhere. They can go get a brand done anywhere. But when they work with me, it's working with the best, because it's not just about putting together a 5-page website. They're getting my intellectual property. So that's why, it takes a long time to become a master at your craft. And what I would say is it has to be that really great fuse of energy, persistence. They've got to have that edge, that tenacity, that they're going to trust me to be really good at my craft. And if that trust factor is there, then I'm going to take them to the moon, or I'm going to die trying. And I think that's my attitude. So I just want to know that they've got that spark, that little spark that 12-year-old Justine had. Because if they have that and they want to succeed so much, then I can take them places. So that's how I decide. And it's something, I agree with Carissa. What she was saying was spot on, because especially with branding, it's an energy. You can have the most amazing product in the world, but if you don't have that energy, if you don't have that synergy, even with your product or your company, that's going to die. That brand will die. That passion is so important in everything that you do. And I think that's really something that I bring to the table. And, that's what I attract. They say your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's the same with your clients. You know, I don't want to attract everyone because I'm going to be too much for some people, and those people are not my people. So you got to qualify your clients as much as they qualify you, and then it will be a good fit. So that's me.
Awesome. And in the back of my mind, I got a follow-up question, but I do want to go to Uncle Dave first, because I just love, peace and love on top of right there. I mean, can't avoid that right now. So Uncle Dave, what is it that has this is a person that I'm going to work with versus this is a person that's great but not a fit for me? How do you I don't know, venture into that or figure that out and then go forward with it?
Yeah, so I do have a vetting process, because you need to talk to people. Because as Carissa said, there's that energy piece, and even Justine was talking about a bunch of things with energy. You have to get that feel, because if you don't know that feel, I mean, it really is. Your peace and love might be different than my peace and love. Like you might love to jump out of a plane, and that's what is gonna get your juices flowing, and that might not be for other pieces. Because when we're on our path, we might all walk each other home, as Ram Dass says, but we also have that ability to figure out how to recalibrate. I know there's a lot of R words that we keep using, and that's what we want, because it's that recalibration in our heart. Because our heart is always moving, and that's what's the really powerful part, is that energy moving from where we are and how do we adjust ourselves or reset ourselves. And that's where leadership comes in. We're a leader when we show up by leading, but we also have to act as a leader. And for me, it's a servant leader. I don't want to be the guy who's leading people through the desert. I want to be there as a team, as when I say on my podcast, well, I'm looking for the right tribe, the right clan of people. And that's where the energy builds together, because we all work together. And once we adjust to that, it's really a really powerful place. I was just talking to my friend Carlos about how, as big this planet is, it's really the smallest planet in the world, because really we're all connected if we allow that connection to reach out.
Absolutely. And so we evolve, right? We evolve. Like, we're heart-centered. We find clients we want to work with. We find our tribe. We want to learn from others. As we evolve, how does that relationship change? Like, I'm thinking almost, on the one hand, you have a mentor and a child. The child gets older and older, and maybe it'll switch mentors. We evolve because Carissa and Justine and you as well, you mentioned self-development, know thyself, which is like the most important priority in all of this. Know thyself, and then know your boundaries. So when you move forward, what happens to the relationship with other people as everybody evolves? And yes, it came to my mind when I was talking to Justine, because I know my brand has evolved, right? You start over here, and then you say, oh, look here. Oh, no, look here. You move forward with it. How do you work with that while helping the other person shine in whatever the brand might be? Because just want to throw in, even if you don't have a business, you have a brand. So how do we work with that? Uncle Dave, I want to start backwards now. Why don't we start out with you?
Yeah, so the great part is we could be the change. So in any situation, no matter what, you could be the change. So no matter how bad of a day, if you're driving and somebody cuts you off, you could take it personal and say, oh, they did that to me, which is how it feels very personal. You could just say they drove like that, even in our personal relationships. And I think that's the power, that once we get that internal heart-centered power again, then we can operate differently outside, and we start interacting differently. Because if we don't see everything as an attack, we're able to then see that it's just the way that other people see things, or how we were able to see things. A lot of times I'll talk about that love filter with a lot of clients, and it's all, even when clients come together, couples, and they go, well, he asked me to take out the garbage all the time. Well, it's really, look at it differently and saying, oh, I would like a clean house. Can you help me? Is a different conversation than say, you never do anything and take out the garbage. And by using that energy differently, we hear it differently, we receive differently, and then we also return and are able to receive the true messages of love.
I like that, especially the garbage example. That always resonates with me somehow. I'm not sure why. Carissa, how do you deal with that evolution in all of us?
That's the most beautiful part of the journey, I think, really, is understanding that we're all going to evolve at some point. And I think in my experience, if you're not growing, you are dying. So what I've realized is, and this is kind of why I structure my coaching packages very intentionally, is because I realize within a 6-month container of working with me, we're going to change so much. So we may not be aligned to work with each other after a year. So I want to make sure that we're honoring both of our evolutions and both of our processes. So for me, it really comes down to understanding that the energetics of it all, because that's what it comes down to for me, is that when you grow and you change, your vibration will change naturally. And then if you're working with somebody and supporting them, theirs will too. But whatever is no longer aligned will naturally fall off. So if it's like, you know how you grow and your friends will say, you've outgrown us, or they're like, you're too good for us, or whatever. What happens is the things that are no longer in alignment, you'll feel it no longer in alignment, and the things just kind of fall away. But when I'm working with a client and we start changing and evolving and growing and we're enjoying the process, we just honor that transformation. We honor the process. So my brand, I've gone through so many iterations of my brand. I'm like, I want to talk to Justine because I'm in a new stage right now where I'm like, I'm going through another iteration. But the thing that I've noticed about my audience and my clients is this: they love the journey. They love watching me grow. They love seeing me be human. They love seeing the evolution of the process. It's kind of like watching a movie that we know the end. We're like, this is boring, I don't want to watch this. But if you see the character at the beginning, like their broken down energy or whatever they're going through, their difficulty, the hero's journey, we fall in love with that process. We fall in love with the people because we see their process. So I think when it's just speaking to the branding or the energetics of the evolution, people want to see that. They love that. And if it's no longer in alignment, or it just kind of just happens naturally, things just fall away. And the more conscious you are, the more that you come from love, I think the easier separations can be with clients or with friends or anybody for that matter.
Awesome. Well, Justine, you just heard that Carissa's going to be reaching out to you. But aside from that, how do you deal with that?
I loved what Carissa was saying about just storytelling, because I think that's so important. And you know that quote, every single part of your life will demand a different level of you, especially in success, especially in business. And it applies the same to branding. You're going to evolve as a person. Your business is going to evolve. It's going to grow. But what I would say is you've got to be kind to yourself. And I've always made it this thing where I'm my own competition. I don't look left, I don't look right, I don't look in front of me, I just have tunnel vision. And I think if you've got that in terms of your branding and you keep it timeless, then you've got something good. So, also be kind to yourself, because the world is changing. Technology is just getting faster. So, I would say stick to a lane, and also just listen to what is out there, but it doesn't mean you have to take it in and apply every single thing you learn. Take the stuff that's right for you, align with some mentors. It may not even be in your industry. It could be in another industry. And I think that's the best way to get through the technology age that we're going through right now in terms of branding.
That's interesting. So if we understand that we have to first know ourselves, and we're talking heart-centered, does that mean we first have to love ourselves as well?
Absolutely.
How could that possibly be the path?
I was just asking. It's like, well, we're talking about the heart. Let me prove that there's love here too. So as we're doing this, sometimes we'll continue working with people, sometimes we don't. We find our tribe. And that's how I sort of found Justine, right? We were in the 1%ers and we just clicked. It's like, wow, there's a tribe. I know there are going to be some other people joining us on and off, and then the tribe grows with that. So what is the impact that heart-centered leadership can have versus, or compared to, or in alignment with, however you want to phrase it, with the leadership that we know that has been happening? Does that make sense, that question? Okay, Carissa is saying yes, so I'm going to let her take this one.
Yeah, something's actually coming really clearly to me, which is ultimately, I think, really great leadership. So I heard this in the 1%ers Club the other day. Somebody said this and I loved it. It was a Simon Sinek quote. I was talking about teams and how a really great team is not just people who work together, but people that trust each other. Yes. And I think that a really great leader is somebody who the team trusts. And I think that the process goes like this, that you have to know yourself. And when you know yourself, you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, other people trust you. But if you're trying to lead other people and have other people trust you, but you don't trust you, that becomes a really big gap in your leadership. So I think that the path can be very simple when you think about it. It's just know you. The more you know you, just like I don't necessarily not trust Justine, but I don't know her. So it's hard to trust something that I don't know. Fundamentally, how can you trust something that you don't know? So if I don't know myself, I don't even give myself an opportunity to trust me because I don't know me. So the more that you know yourself, the more you give yourself an opportunity to trust yourself, the more you trust yourself, inevitably, the more other people trust you.
This is such a phenomenal point, Carissa. This is why I'm a fan of the work you do and why I personally endorse it. I think the point here for a lot of people to hear is that when you do your inner work as a leader, it's not self-centered or selfish. In point of fact, the reason we do inner work is because we care about the people that are in our lives and the people that are in our businesses. And so I think that it's important to recognize that for a moment, because how can you trust yourself if you're not doing the inner work, right? And we've discussed on this program, and we've had several different master practitioners of what is called neurolinguistic programming. In fact, we have a television show right here on the Los Angeles Tribune television network via Roku TV with a master practitioner, and that's of course Rex Sykes, who has been a master practitioner of NLP for many decades and has been truly been a pioneer of what is referred to as NLP. And what he discusses is very similar to what you're talking about, Carissa Johnson. How can we really trust ourselves if we don't know what's going on subconsciously? And so with that, I want to just quickly point out that we are at the halfway point of today's program right here on the Los Angeles Tribune Television Network. And Miss Justine, just to echo off of Carissa's thoughts, what do you have to contribute? Justine, please, the floor is yours.
I think leadership always starts with yourself. Like, you've just got to pave the way. You got to do the work, because you just never know in those moments. It could be your toughest moment, but you don't know who you're going to be inspiring. And I know this from running a team and from working in a big agency culture too. Like, leadership comes from the top. So you're constantly, you got to watch yourself. Like, you got to become better. And it goes back to what I said, be your own competition, be your own biggest fan, do the work, read the books. There's no shortcut to success. And I think success can mean a few different things in life. Like, it's not just about money success, right? It's about how successful are you in yourself? Because it's all going to have domino effect on your future. So whatever you are doing now, it's going to impact on future days ahead.
You're absolutely right, Justine. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate you pointing that out. Uncle Dave, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I really love how the energy with all of our speakers are just connecting, because it really is how the heart comes from within ourselves. I'll tell you a story about myself. Is a couple of years ago, I was going through some challenges, and I went to a doctor, and my acupuncturist actually, and she says, "Do you love yourself?" And I paused. And generally when we pause ourselves, the answer is no, right? And I can honestly say, through the work that I've done, and I knew how to do all the work. I was helping people before then, and I liked myself. I was a good person, but I didn't love myself. And until I learned to love myself, that set me to a new level. That's what it is when we find our ability to love ourselves and move forward. That's where we really level up and are able to find the right tribe and the right clan. Because I use the metaphor a lot about being a phoenix. And being a phoenix isn't just rising out of the ashes. It's finding that spark. I think Carissa had said that earlier about finding the spark within ourselves. And the spark is always there, but how do we reignite it and then continue that going forward? And that's all part of it. It's all part of that, but it all stems from us. And like I said earlier, we could be the change. If we find more love within ourselves, we can then talk to everybody else with a little bit more love or love filter.
Beautiful message. And speaking of Carissa, we have someone who's live, one of our viewers from the Philippines, who actually said that Carissa Johnson, if there is a pageant, you will be crowned as the Miss Universe. So look at that, Carissa. I mean, here on the LA Tribune TV network, you literally have fans all over the world. That's a comment from the Philippines. So we certainly appreciate you, Mon from the Philippines. Carissa Johnson, quickly, what would you like to respond back to your lovely fan in the Philippines?
You know, my entire life, I've worked towards loving myself. And I think that one of the biggest challenges we have with loving ourselves is being able to receive. Come here, Romeo. And so, no coincidence, my dog's name is Romeo. And we have, in order to receive. So how I want to respond to this comment is very simple, is I receive that. I honor that. I'm welcoming that love, because how can we really give love if we don't know how to receive love? So I'm just totally open and available for that comment, and I totally receive that. So thank you.
And let's go ahead and take the conversation to this idea of receiving. You know, there are so many good people on the planet, right, that are doing so many good things for others, but yet they themselves get stuck in a rut. And I believe that a big reason why this happens is because they have not yet understood the power of receiving. People that will always give, whether it's giving, you know, money to the church, whether it's giving money to this person, whether it's doing this favor for that. Oh, do you need a ride from the airport, or do you need me to help you move? Whatever the case may be, good people that just don't seem to get ahead in life. Good people that just don't seem to have peace of mind. Good people that seem to do what? Always get the short end of the stick. You know, there's that whole saying, nice guys finish last. And I'm sure there are a lot of nice guys that do finish last, and nice women that do finish last. And I believe, Carissa, that it's because they have not yet understood that universal principle that you just shared. You see, in order to receive, you must give. And in order to truly give, you must receive. So I want us to spend of the time that we have together to talk about this. And Carissa, since you brought it up, I want to actually give the floor back to you and help. I know there's someone listening that's in that category. There's somebody listening right now that's a nice person that does a lot of things for a lot of other people, but still has not mastered the ability to receive back from the universe. What does your heart say, Carissa? What's in your heart to share to that person watching? And then we'll go to Justine and Uncle Dave. Carissa, please.
Thank you. I think that giving is such a gift. We talked about this in the One Percenters Club on Clubhouse a couple weeks ago. And I remember hearing a lot of people talk about, I'm such a giver. I'm such a giver. None of us will really say I'm a taker. None of us will really identify with, I'm actually a taker here. But I think that there's something really beautiful about receiving. And I think at the core of what most people deal with is feeling unworthy. I'm unworthy of taking up space. I'm unworthy of attention. I'm unworthy of love. And so ultimately it comes down to healing those inner childhood wounds about you being seen for the totality of who you are, with your flaws, your imperfections, your mistakes, the things that you've done in this lifetime. So I think what I ultimately want to say for those who are dealing with wanting to expand in life and wanting to give and receive more, it goes down to the inner core wound in you that says that I am worthy. I am enough as I am. And I think something that I really practice that I just did a minute ago is when somebody offers you a gift, take it. You know, if somebody, you take a friend takes you out to dinner and they're like, oh, I want to pay. Don't fight it. Don't block your blessings by pushing somebody away who's trying to give you a gift. I believe that everything is happening for a reason. Everything is happening in divine time. So if somebody gives you a compliment, if somebody wants to pay for something, simply receive the gift and blessing and say, I receive that. And I think that will ultimately help you, among many other things, onto your path of being able to receive more openly.
I believe that's a beautiful message. And I believe people need to accept the receiving element of life. And remember, we must give and receive equally. This is a universal principle. And so to all those givers out there, if you're constantly giving, but you're not receiving, you're actually creating a void in the universal patterns. You're actually creating a void in your life. And so with that, Ms. Justine, the floor is yours.
It's such an interesting question and topic, Liz, because I work with a lot of philanthropists that come to me and they're like, I want to save the world. I want to start, a charity and help millions of people. And I always say to them, how can you do that if you're not helping yourself first? And I've learned this, like we discussed it at the women's event, I have honestly had to learn how to receive. So I myself have been a giver my whole life, but I think it goes back to, you need to ask yourself, what type of legacy do I want to leave on the world? If you're not a good receiver, chances are you're not going to leave that big legacy, because just as you're building yourself up, it's going to have a domino effect on your legacy and how big your legacy is. I feel like the more value you give to yourself, the more value you're going to give to others. It's domino impact. Thanks, Mo.
Thank you so much for that, Justine. And let's go to the lovely Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave, what say you about this subject matter? The floor is yours.
Sure. I think words are very powerful. So the idea of receiving is really powerful. I don't necessarily like the word about accepting, because sometimes we accept things that are not really what we want. And we just accept it, and that's how we manage our challenges. So I would suggest that we learn to receive and be grateful for the opportunity and the lessons that are in there. This is a lesson in everything that we go through. What do we need to do and listen to where the message is? Again, using different ways. I mean, with block your blessings. I know Carissa had mentioned that, and it's about keeping that energy flowing, because when you flow the energy, it moves. When we accept it, we might just be holding something back. It's all about moving our energy for continuing. I mean, really, when Justine talked also about, helping ourselves first. That's the most powerful part, because if we're able to flow well in the universe, flow in business, flow in whatever we're doing, it just moves that much easier, because we're not looking for other people for anything else. It really comes back to how we receive it. And if we receive, even a negative thing could be received for the lessons that's in there. There's a lesson in everything that happens, and there's a lesson to why the universe reacts differently. And that's the greatest thing what we can do, is receive things differently and accept them, not at all, but receive them and look for the lessons in it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that contribution. I want to hear from the lovely Dr. Natalie Forrest on this particular subject matter. Dr. Natalie, please.
Well, I think I like what Uncle Dave just said, and what everybody else said, because we have to love ourselves and understand our value. Once we understand our value, we sort of open up the floodgates, right? We allow things to come in. When we don't understand our value, we put borders up. We're like, yeah, I know you said that dress is nice, but I don't deserve that compliment. And then we go into, yeah, well, but I bought it like 5 years ago. It was only $2. Instead of what Carissa so nicely exemplified, saying, well, it might be an old dress, but guess what? It looks good on me. So once we understand and love ourselves, we allow the value to be reflected back onto us, just like a mirror. And when that happens, we can then, as Justine and Uncle Dave also pointed out, we can sort of accumulate all of those compliments and that love from inside and outside, and throw it back out. Justine always says dominoes, either domino to me is like a wave. It's like the ripple effect. We go out and we impact everybody else. So I say something nice to Carissa. She loves herself. So now she blows up, goes bigger. And then, it bumps up it again, Uncle Dave. And then Uncle Dave's like, oh yeah, I can do this too. And so that's how, as heart centers leaders, we come together, we learn from each other, from the heart, non-judgmental. And therefore we create new leaders doing the same thing, versus, I don't often use that word, but versus what we have seen so long was more like, in Maryland, we say the crab mentality, right? No, you're not getting out of the bucket, so neither am I. No, I'm not, you're not. No, this is like, I may not get where you're going, but I have my role to play in understanding that and embracing that. That's how I see it. It's really everybody coming together.
Absolutely. And Dr. Natalie, you use the dress as an example, how somebody receives a compliment for the dress, and then, they diminish that compliment. But that's a very powerful filtering mechanism in life. What am I talking about here? There are some people that you might feel as though you need to diminish a compliment with more than others. Or there are some people in life where if you have good news, if something good happened to you, but you're hesitating to share it with that person, or if something good happened to you or for you, and you kind of water it down when you're talking about it with a certain individual, that's a good indication that individual's time in your life is expired. Remember, folks, you are the CEO, first and foremost, of Me Incorporated. You get to hire and you get to fire accordingly. So if I'm talking to a so-called friend, and if I am sharing good news with them, and suddenly they want to change the subject matter, Or if I'm sharing good news with them and intuitively I know that they, maybe I should water it down when I share it with them. Or if I share good news with them and the first thing they give back to me is something cautionary, pay attention to these things. If you buy a new car and you share it with someone and their first response back is, oh, I'm sure the insurance on that car though is very expensive. Or if you buy a new house and you share it with someone and they say, oh yeah, I remember there was a murder that happened in that city 3 years ago. Or if their mind goes to something negative, that's an indication that their time in your life has expired. So folks, pay attention. And remember, you are the CEO of Me Incorporated. You don't need to give somebody a reason for why their time has expired in your life. You can do a gut check, you can do a heart check, and you can do this as a testing mechanism. Share something good with someone. Let's see if they're going to embrace the good news or if they're going to respond back with something negative. Tell someone you bought a Ferrari and let's see if they respond back by talking about the insurance, or are they going to say, that's awesome, Carissa. Let's go to the beach this weekend, right? That's a Ferrari, right? Exactly. But so the point is, though, remember, folks, you have the ability to pick and choose who you want in your life. And don't let anyone ever indicate that you don't, because that is not a friend. And with that, we're going to wrap up here and go to closing thoughts. Before I do that, I want to point out that Dr. Natalie Forrest, who's joining us live from Germany on an international business trip, is also part of this remarkable Thought Leaders Anthology that is going to consist of Nobel-level thinkers, Mensa-level thinkers that are truly making a difference. Now, this series is going to have several different versions, one of which Dr. Natalie Forrest is producing, that is a all-women's leadership book, which I'm very excited about. It will be featuring some New York Times best-selling authors, scientists, people that are actively making a difference all around the world. So I'm very excited for this particular project that the Los Angeles Tribune is doing. It will be available in Barnes & Noble stores and everywhere the books are sold. So congratulations, Dr. Natalie Forrest. There will be more information regarding that for the thought leaders in the world that want to really take it to that next level with the impact and the footprint they're making all around the world. With that, we're going to do closing statements from each individual. Let's first go to Carissa Johnson, where you have the floor for as long as you would like to share what's remaining in your heart. Carissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. What's remaining in my heart is just, I feel so full right now. Having this conversation, I believe, is very important. In the space that I'm in, a lot of people liken leadership with influence. And I think those things are very different. I think at some point that might be a good topic for us to discuss because that comes up for the space that I'm in often. But I believe that if you have influence over anyone, you might be a dog, a person, a partner, you are an influencer, but it takes a different type of energy to truly be a leader. And I think the things that we've discussed today about coming from your heart, about wanting to raise up other individuals, about doing your work first, about being receiving are some of the most important and fundamental and seemingly simple concepts that make a really important leader. I think often people look for these more advanced concepts of these skills and abilities, but what it comes down to is your heart. There's a quote that I love so much that kind of speaks to this essence of the head has no answers, the heart has no questions. So if you are a leader, if you want to step into leading in your life or leading other people, go back to the answers are always here and lead from your heart and choose also to be able to really receive and to learn how to receive compliments from others, compensation from others, what have you, because that is the embodiment of a true leader. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us, Carissa, and graciously sharing your time, your wisdom, and all of the wonderful thoughts that you have with our audience. Justine, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mo. Also, my heart is so full and I'm so honored to be here. And it has been a privilege and I enjoyed meeting and speaking with all of you. One of my great mentors, Mr. Jay Noland, says that being a great leader, not only is it just being heart-centered, it's not being afraid to shine light on others. And I think no matter what you do in life, you do have to ask yourself how great you want to play. Like, how big do you want to be in this life? And if the answer is big, then be a heart-centered leader. Always lead with your heart, because I don't think it can lead you wrong. It's never led me wrong. And I think this is how you have a domino effect. This is how you leave the greatest legacy. Ask yourself, how do you want to be remembered when you're no longer on this planet? And most importantly, be your own competition. Never compare yourself with others, because your journey, you could be number 2 or number 5 now, but it's just not your time yet. You're going to get there. Just be persistent, keep driving, and keep leading with your heart. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Justine. Appreciate your lovely comments and your commentary. Uncle Dave, the floor is yours. Final statements.
As I started out by saying, heart and earth are the same thing. Once you ground yourself, you're able to then rise again, using those R's in your heart. Find those R's in your heart. And when you start talking with more R's about rising, resilience, recalibrating, you will rise yourself up. It's a process. Life is a process. I actually trademarked the process. It's called Kluberty. It's that moment in life when we start learning all the things that brought us to here and how we got here. We're all good people. We get distracted a little bit. So go through that process of Kluberty and don't be scared, because that's what it is. Life is a process. And when you center yourself with your heart, you're grounded, same letters, differently, and we all do that differently. We ground ourselves differently. Find the right resources, find the right responsibilities, and definitely find the ways to rise and find resilience within yourself. Thanks so much for everybody's talk.
Thank you so much, Uncle Dave. I want to go to Dr. Natalie Forrest, who many of you know is actually traveling internationally for business. Right now, I see behind you that beautiful German sun is coming up. And it's interesting. You know, the sun in Germany, Natalie, is much more mechanical than the sun over here. I don't know why. It just seems to be more like mechanical and analytical. I'm looking at it. It's very like, almost like a perfect engineer designed it. What do you have to say, Dr. Natalie? What are your final thoughts and words for this week's show? Please, the floor is yours, and good morning.
Well, everything in Germany runs second by second timed perfectly. So that's how I timed, of course.
Yes, I've had a couple Mercedes Benzes in my life and a couple BMWs, I know. Please.
I think what came through here is, of course, know thyself. But it's also, I'm a historian by trade, as many of you know, and who comes to mind is John Quincy Adams or Ralph Waldo Emerson. But I think I'm going to go with John Quincy Adams for today, and that is, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, and to do more, they will become more. And that means you're a leader. And that's what I've heard everybody say tonight. Yes, I'm a leader, but I sort of really just go by my heart and I connect with people to help elevate them. So if we elevate others because we know who we are, altogether the world will be a better place. And I can't not mention Uncle Dave, because that's also something that I have taught myself is, if somebody cuts you off on the road, if somebody yells at you, if somebody screams at you, that's their stuff. Because peace and happiness comes from inside. So everything else is their stuff. And what we can do is, as leaders who know ourselves, we wish them love and safety while they drive off into la la land. So I think it's really important what we've seen here, that everybody is honest in integrity and just lives from a space of internal and inner peace, and that brings forward everything else.
Thank you so much for those final thoughts, Dr. Natalie Forrest. We certainly appreciate everyone taking time out of their day here. Justine, Uncle Dave, Carissa Johnson. Want to thank our friends at Roku TV. Want to thank everyone in the virtual auditorium. And with that being said, folks, we are going to make a logistical change for those that have been watching this lovely program every single Monday, 7 o'clock PST. If you've gotten used to watching this at this same place, same time, please take note. Within the next couple of weeks, we will be making a logistical change to this show. So keep an eye open, because I know a lot of folks are tuning in every single week, and there's some people that have made this part of their weekly routine. So we want to make sure that our lovely fans out there know that we're going to change the time very soon. So keep an eye open for that. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, we appreciate you. Take care.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. have earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.